I'm joined today by William from Relocity, where we're going to talk about everything to do with artificial intelligence, process, and technology within the mobility world. If you enjoy this podcast, don't forget to like, and more importantly, don't forget to pass your comments on the post, and let's hear from you and what your experiences are around the subject matter of artificial intelligence, technology, and human centricity in the global mobility world. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Now listen, I know I was a little bit late, but 10 minutes ago I was told you were nipping to get a coffee. I've got this vision that you've gone off to some bougie coffee shop down the road,
No. Just my kitchen downstairs, man.
got
I
yourself
wish
some
it
kind
were.
of organic macchiato with extra something and a skim that and a drinking temperature this.
Man, I am just I do like my oat milk cappuccinos, but in
I
the day
don't,
to day, it's just a cup of drip. I have the
ah,
Chemex, the pour. You have to do the pour over. You have to get good beans. Got to measure it
really?
out. You got to get a burr grinder. You got to get the right grind,
I'm
and
with
then
you.
you
I've
got.
got I've got a Sage machine. You got Sage machines in the US?
I don't know what that is, but now I need
Sage,
to look it
Sage,
up.
so the Sage coffee machine. This is going to turn into a podcast review of coffee.
Why
Sage
not?
coffee machines. They're,
As it.
they're Australian, and they make fabulous coffee. But we also have. I actually have in my bedroom a drip machine attached to a smart plug. So in the morning it just comes on. Yeah, true story.
I love it, dude. I love it. I have
So
often
in,
said, if
so in the morning,
if I had to choose between coffee and my wife, I love them
well,
both. It's
to
a toss up. It's a toss
to
up at
be
this point.
fair, my wife is the one that fills the coffee machine the night before
Okay,
and puts it on, and
keep them
then I
both.
take all the credit because I serve it when I leave in the morning. How are you? You keeping well?
I'm doing very well, man. How about yourself?
Good.
Good to see you.
Yeah,
Did
yeah.
you
Not
visit
bad.
California this summer with the family?
Yeah.
Were you
We
here?
no, we were on the East Coast,
Oh,
so
okay.
we
I thought
actually
you were
we
on the
went
West
into
Coast. Yeah.
no West Coast was last year.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
this year we did New York State pretty much,
Oh, nice, man.
which
Okay.
which was pretty cool. It was good. So we sort of road trip down from Toronto down. We actually went via Boston, but then
Cool.
dropped into New York and then back up through. We ended up doing a bit of a tour of TV show locations. So we went to Scranton,
Oh, okay.
which was I wanted to go there. It was a big, huge, massive disappointment.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah,
Well, it's
because
not
it's not even filmed in Scranton. It's filmed closer to you in LA, right?
probably. Of course, man. Yeah.
We also went to a place called Goodwood, which is where they filmed Schitt's Creek. That was
Okay.
cool.
That's great. It's a
Um,
great
that,
show. Awesome
that
show.
is a great show, and actually, that all was there. That is in this tiny little town in the middle of nowhere, which
Oh,
is very
nice,
cool.
man. Nice.
And we also went to a place. Have you ever seen on Netflix Kim's Convenience?
Yeah, I've
Which
seen, my kids have watched the whole thing. I haven't
I
seen
love
the
it.
whole. Yeah.
So we went to the convenience store in Toronto. It exists. It's called Kim's Convenience. But the funniest thing
Awesome.
was we go in there and it's nothing. The front is identical. Outside, everything's identical. When you go in, clearly filmed in a studio. But we bought some stuff and we left. And as we're leaving, the shopkeeper lady, who is not obviously Kim from the TV show, says, "Are
Yeah.
you big fans of the show?" So we laughed and said, "Yes." So took some photos and stuff. And as we're leaving, this local
Nice.
guy goes, "What's the deal with this store? I see people taking photos outside here all the time." I'm like, "It's
Don't
a
you know?
Netflix show. There's like 7 seasons on Netflix." And he's like, "I've lived here all my life. I never knew that." So it's like me
That's
from London schooling
yeah.
someone, a local guy in
The
Toronto.
locals.
Yeah, so
Too
that's what
much. Love it, man. Love
that
it.
was
Did
yeah.
you spend an overnight in Boston? Spend
We
any time
did.
in Boston?
Yeah, we
Okay.
did.
That's
Yeah.
my old city, man. I went to school. I went to University of Boston.
Okay,
Yeah.
well we stayed in sort of the MIT
All
sort
right,
of
Cambridge. Yeah, the other side of the river. Yeah.
yeah, which was yeah, it was
Beautiful.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's summers in Boston.
actually, it poured with rain one of the days that we were there, but we made the
Ooh,
most of it. We had the best time. It's yeah, that's
cool.
a. I like that city actually. New
Yeah.
York was a bit. It's New York.
New
It's
York
great.
is full on.
It's high
Yeah, New York is
energy,
great.
but it's
You
different.
gotta have, it's tricky with kids. If you're like 23 and you're ready to go out all night till
Yeah,
4 a.m., great, awesome city, do that. But with
yeah.
family and kids, like, it's
I mean, my
tricky.
kids are 18, 17, and
Oh,
16, so
so they kind of thought it was cool. They probably
yeah.
were like,
I
oh,
took
New York. I
yeah, I
mean,
took them to Times Square. Or the 18 and 17-year-old. I took those two to Times Square at like 10:30 at night and instantly regretted it.
Oh,
instantly.
was it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, their eyes were wide open, bulging, and
Yeah.
with what they'd seen, it was like it's rite of passage.
Yeah, that's true, man. Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, yeah. So, listen,
No.
thank you for taking the time to join us. I really
Yeah, for sure.
appreciate it. We talked about
Yeah.
a bunch of stuff when we met in London. How long ago was that? It's 3, 4 months ago now.
It
Distant
was
memory.
June, early June, man. Just at the
Yeah,
beginning of
yeah,
summer.
about
Yeah, June,
4 months. Yeah,
mid-June,
yeah,
maybe June 10th, June 15th, somewhere in there. Yeah.
yeah. It felt like what you guys would call fall, and it is now fall. So that makes sense because it was summer in London. Wasn't it?
Actually,
So
you guys were having a warm spell at the time, man. It was warm.
yeah, you were shocked.
Yeah, I was shocked, man. I mean, people were out having a good time. The sun was out. I was there for about 5, 6 days, and it was, I can't do the Celsius conversion.
No,
But it was sunny days,
it was
you
warm.
know, t-shirts, shorts. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was a good time.
That was
Very,
summer. That 4 or 5 days. That was
that
that
was
was
it, huh?
yeah.
That was the end, the start and end.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad I caught it, actually, man.
Well, you
Yeah,
brought it, so thank you.
love it. And then we were back. We actually, we took the family, the kids, my wife and I, to Portugal. We went to Lisbon. We went to Porto. We went to the Algarve.
Nice.
We went to Barcelona, which we've been, was a beautiful city, been to before.
Yeah.
And then we ended it in Switzerland, in Zurich.
Oh wow, what a road trip!
Just,
How long were you gone for?
gosh, 2.5 weeks, man. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was a nice
Did you
long
plan
trip.
the trip?
Yeah, my wife and I planned it for many months with different Airbnbs and flights and,
Uh-huh. And
and then,
this is going to lead me into our topic.
oh,
How
okay.
did you plan it?
Combination of like, ChatGPT. Actually, I
Okay.
should say Copilot because my wife works at Microsoft, so I need to say
Okay.
Copilot.
Okay.
Yeah, Copilot and yeah,
Man.
man, lots of time
Same.
online looking at reviews, TripAdvisor.
Okay.
But a lot of it was really actually leveraging Copilot and
Hmm.
just, getting deeper into the prompts of like, okay, I'm looking for what neighborhood do I want to stay in? I like my kids like vintage shops and vinyl records and great breakfast and good coffee shops and oh, these are the three neighborhoods, William. And okay, cool. Like
And then
so,
you deep dive into it, right?
totally, yeah, man.
Yeah.
And so
Same.
I would get, yeah,
How mad is that?
how wouldn't you, man?
Like
Honestly,
seamless segue into what we're talking about.
100%. Yeah, man. I mean, I just read your article. I don't know if you wrote it or somebody on your team, um, about the Gen Alpha. I have a Gen Alpha in my family. I got an 11-year-old. And so
Yeah.
how we went from Gen Z to millennials to, or was it millennials, Gen Z, Gen Alpha,
You
and the
got it.
different expectations around personalization. And
It's a
anyway,
really interesting subject. To answer your question, no, I didn't write it, but it was an interesting subject to sort of really start to try and understand and look at sort of what's influencing their sort of social backgrounds and their expectations of their place in society and what how that's going to evolve and change and what their expectations of a workplace and not just a workplace but actually what employment looks like, and thus mobility and outworld, right?
and what the jobs will be, quite frankly, man.
Correct.
At this point,
Yeah.
we have no idea.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean,
I can tell you, my kids see my wife and I on Teams and Zoom calls all day long, and they know they don't really
that's
want to do
normal.
that. They're like, "You guys do that all day? That's terrible." And then like, and they pay you for that? And like, yeah,
Yeah.
why?
So it's
Because
kind
they're
of like I think, as with a lot of things in society, there's a full circle, right? Because a generational shift when, as you say, they see a generation of people that like you and I, and it's
yeah,
kind of like, so hang on, you sit in the same room on the same chair, but you speak to lots of different people, but you don't go anywhere. Now, some
yeah,
people might like that. We obviously went through the COVID phase, so we're the generation that we're working through that
yeah,
phase where some people are like, I kind of like that. Like personally, there's pros and cons. I like having my focus time to work at home, but I love getting into the office and being with people
me too, man. Me too.
and actually commuting, you know, just
I
seeing stuff.
I like commuting as well. You get the energy of being together with a bunch of with the commuters and the
Yeah,
community. And it's a
and
great
better
energy.
coffee
Yeah,
at
right,
some
man.
point.
Meeting for coffee. I love it, man. I honestly miss the office. I had so much fun getting to spend a little time with the K2 team in your office,
Yeah,
with Rob and friends, and it was great. just I'm a water cooler guy. Like I'm just like, grab
The
somebody, hey, you
water
want to
cooler
get tea?
moment.
Off to the water cooler. We talk about what was on Netflix last night. Talk
Yeah.
about whatever it is, man. But this is where you get to really know people on a deeper
It
level.
it
And
is.
it's interesting because if we shift back to the conversation around, Relo and AI and technology, the currency in the workplace in the future will be empathy. And so we're seeing a shift away from, because AI is replacing all the coders and the software engineers. So the STEAM degrees that we all thought were going to be the future of humanity are being replaced by vibe coding machines. And 30-40% of the software development is being done by AI at this point, right?
Correct.
And so the future, the degrees that our kids need to be thinking of are the ones that I certainly pursued. I have a history degree and an art history degree and then a law degree. But so for me, empathy, connection with other humans, that
Understanding.
personal that personal touch that K2 excels in,
Yeah.
understanding
Psychology.
that will be the differentiator in the workforce, I think, going forward. It
Yeah.
won't be I can write C++ or JavaScript, or
Yeah.
because that
Yeah.
doesn't matter,
Because
which is
you know,
shocking from a guy who's lived in the Silicon Valley for 30 years.
yeah, of
Like
course.
the software engineers were at the top of the pyramid, man. Like
Mm.
they were the ones with the big egos and the ones who made all the stock options at Google and Meta. And
Yeah.
yeah,
And
they're all probably retired up in Napa County
They
at this point,
they
so they don't really.
created it.
Yeah,
They created it full circle.
100%.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So that's a really interesting point. So look, I've got some questions. And before we deep dive in, one of the things this will be shocking to you, William, but there might be some people that don't know you. So my first question is, tell us a little bit about your. I'm a baby in mobility. I've been in it for 4 years. I think you've been in it a little bit longer.
yeah,
Uh, and
yeah.
if you haven't, you certainly come across shockingly well that you have been in it a lot longer. Now, if I'm remembering correctly, your journey in mobility started at Adobe. Was that correct?
It
Was it,
started at a company called Macromedia, which was ultimately acquired by Adobe.
that
But back
was
in the late,
Macromedia not Flash? Was that?
you got it, buddy. So the
Yeah, I
early
remember. Like, I designed websites in the early noughties, right?
Anybody
Flash.
who worked in the web in the
Yep,
late 90s remembers Flash. Flash ruled the internet. Flash,
it did.
Dreamweaver, Fireworks. Interestingly, Adobe's AI is now called Fireworks,
Right.
which
Okay.
for us old Macromedia guys was
I
like,
remember Fireworks.
Fireworks was the competitor to Illustrator. And
Correct.
there was a lot of hardcore Fireworks lovers who loved that Macromedia product. Anyway, I started at Macromedia. I was doing college recruiting, and then for those who were alive at the time, which is probably not most of the folks on your team, there was this thing called the dot-com bubble. The internet days of VC giving, early internet days of VCs giving millions of dollars to these startups. I had friends who worked for them, and I'd be
Yeah,
like,
it's
"What do you
crazy.
guys do?" They're like, "We don't do anything. We just give
Yeah.
money. We lose money on every. It's all about customer acquisition, and it costs us $300." Like I had friends who like worked for these companies that were. Um, God, what was one of them was ultimately like a Groupon, was an early kind of iteration of Groupon where it was group buying. You could buy, like, if enough people bid on this television, we could sell the TV lower, right?
Right. Okay.
And I'd be like, wow, so do you guys make money on this? No, we lose money on everything. I'm like, so you're just like burning through millions of dollars. Yeah, it's
Why?
all about customer acquisition. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Why?
that bubble burst. And I had been doing college recruiting, and the VP of talent said, well, William, we're not going to have university hires this year, no interns, but we've got all these folks on visas that we need to take care of. And we had some assignees out there in the field. We need somebody to manage immigration and relocation. We didn't call it mobility back then. It was literally called immigration and relocation.
Yeah.
And she said,
Bit
you
of
can have that job or you can have no job and you can collect unemployment insurance. I said,
yeah.
that sounds like a fascinating job. And I remember the very first meeting we had with our outside counsel, guy I still know. He's a friend of mine. And he came in with his suit and tie. And I was being William, the young William, and, cracking jokes. And he was not smiling. And I was like, okay, lawyers are not fun. Make a
Yeah.
note here. Don't tell jokes with the lawyers. Anyway, I just, I kind of, like so many others, fell into it
Yeah.
and loved the foreign national community. Ironically, or maybe not ironic, maybe it was fate. I had spent 2 years prior in Southeast Asia, traveling in India for about 7 months, living and teaching English in Vietnam, traveling throughout Southeast Asia. And most of the foreign nationals I was supporting on the immigration side had come from India. And so
Right.
when they told me, "Oh, I'm from Madras," or "I'm from Chennai," or I
You
was
could
like, "Oh, I
relate.
was just there. I was there 6 months ago." They were like, "What?" And so I
Uh,
had this instant connection to the clients I was serving.
uh,
And, I'm still in touch with some of these guys 25, 27 years later. They still send me Christmas cards or thank you messages. And I mean, that
and that
is, the personal
that's
side.
fascinating because
Yeah,
I think if you think
yeah,
about your role when you were, cast your mind back then, you were basically a service operator, right? You're providing a service and
yeah,
you're providing guidance and reassurance. And those individuals at that point in time had never met you in that location, but the fact that you'd been there, like there was an instant sort of trust mechanism, an inherent
yeah,
trust mechanism that kicked in
yeah,
that just eased that process. And um, you mentioned our content that we've been talking about and looking at Generation Alpha and as you say, empathy. We the month prior to that,
yeah,
we talked a lot about sort of the use of AI in mobility and look, we ran a bit of a poll, a small poll throughout all of the content that we put in, and a lot of people were sort of coming back saying, really AI for use of processing and stuff like that, great, but replacing sort of human interaction, there's just there's a sensitivity around it, a nervousness around it, and I think that point that you
yeah,
bring up just now,
yeah.
which is how you can get such a beautiful balance between the two, and making sure that the benefit of AI is truly felt by giving back more time for empathy, human interaction, and also making
It's
humans more informed. I know that's as
100%.
you and I spoke about just now, right? Holiday. Um,
And
I became an expert of where to go in New York or where to go in Boston. Of course, I'm not an expert, and you're only as good as what you put in.
yeah.
But it certainly made me feel more of an expert than I ever would have been if I'd. Do you remember the Lonely Planet guides?
Oh gosh, man. I
I
used to
mean,
carry them around. When my wife and I went to India, we had the Lonely Planet. It was like a Bible. It was
right?
this, and we would tear pages out every time we went to one city. We'd tear them out and toss them away because we're like, oh, we've seen it,
But it's
done it.
mad.
Yeah.
Like I'm
And
I'm I'm taking my son to. We're going on a break to Thailand for 1 week, right? And I've still got my Lonely Planets guides from when I travelled around Thailand, three
that's
of them.
awesome.
And I crack them open, and they've got scribbles. They're wonderful. They've got scribbles all over them, highlights over them, and of
Yep.
course you're flicking through them, and you're going, they're 25 years old. Like they would have been out of date a year after I'd purchased them. So
Of
now
course.
there's no hope. There's a map in there, and I looked at Google Maps, and the two maps aren't.
Yeah.
They don't even look the same anymore. 25 years will do that, and
Yeah,
it's
that's awesome, man.
it's
But
it's fascinating, and that's the bit that I love, that you can sort of it it makes everything more relevant and more precise, um, but you've got to keep that human, that empathy piece.
well, it's interesting because as I think about empathy and what we do in mobility on the high touch side, we often say like, scaling, we talk of scale, like you cannot scale the high touch. It's tough because you
Yeah,
just keep adding headcount. Now K2 has a very unique model with
yeah,
the most consultants
with bespoke,
and
yeah,
that's a costly model, let's face it, right? So, if you're going to scale the empathy side of what we do, then technology is the tool that is going to allow us to do that. And
yeah,
so, it's going to drive some personalization. It's going to allow us to address the different preferences of the Gen Zs to the Gen Alphas to the Millennials to the Boomers and the Gen Xers. I'm a Gen X, um, and that's it. And I think it really opens up some really interesting models and approaches. Um, and I think in mobility, I say this, I'm optimistic that technology will never fully replace all that we do. It never will, because
no.
you're going to have, no matter what generation you're from, you are going to want the contact and the support of a human being at some point, and being able to get access to that is critical.
Yeah, I think I've always felt that there's a sliding scale depending on where you are in the mobility population of how much access you want to it. You
Yeah.
talk about sort of the high touch, the VIP C-suite. Um, it's kind of very much in our experience, through K2 Bespoke. It's very much a hands off, or we tend to often operate with either. Um, an EA or a PA a husband or a wife of
Right. Yeah.
the mobility talent that's relocating. If you then slide the scale all the way down to sort of a relocation with just a rucksack and used to having some form of ownership over movement through even basic apps like Uber and we have Deliveroo in the UK. You guys,
Yeah, we have DoorDash. We have Uber
DoorDash.
Eats.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah,
DoorDash,
of
right?
course.
So,
Yeah.
you've got that much accessibility in the palm of your hand, and there's an expectation to have that accessibility. But you're right. There almost certainly at some point along the way is like I need to speak to someone now. Actually, that may be an inconvenience, but I still need to speak to someone. Like I've had it before with Amazon. You know,
Oh,
that time that you've
yeah.
I've actually got to speak to someone at Amazon.
Good luck.
It
Good
just
luck.
feels so alien, you know.
This is true. Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
but because everything with Amazon is completely automated, the only
It's
interaction you have with
true.
Amazon is
Yeah.
the delivery person that chucks the parcel at you.
This is true.
Uh,
Yeah.
you
It's
know,
almost
so
impossible to get someone on support at Amazon. It's like 5, 7 pages deep on there.
that's it.
It's to find the links to get
Yeah,
the customer support
that's
when
it.
you need
Quite
it.
right. Quite right.
Yeah, good for them. They've built, I mean, hey, that's it, essential to their business, right? Is making everything automated. And yeah, I mean, look, there are going to be populations in our industry that want that full automated experience. Then maybe the early careers, the new grads, the interns, maybe like an extended business travel or a short-term assignee, maybe not an assignee, but certain demographics and populations going to be perfectly comfortable doing things on their own. Um, it's interesting. The other day, I had a small plumbing issue in my sink over here, and I went to sort of go fix it with some button. And I was thinking in my head, I was like, wow, like when my kids get older, they might have to call me. I was kind of like feeling honored, like they might call me for help with this. But then the other side of me was like, oh, that really sucks that they're going to need help fixing this. Like, I'm like, well, maybe they could go to YouTube or just the whole thought of like, are we equipping them to be successful in the future with the hands-on things that they may need to do, right?
Kind of, I guess, yeah. What does success look like? I remember working with a guy many years ago, and I remember him coming in. He was a bit older than me, and he said his father was disappointed with him because he couldn't mend his own car, and he says, "Yeah, but actually, I've learned to do a job where I earn enough money to pay someone else to mend my car. I have no interest in mending my
I
car,
have
but I
four
have an
cars.
interest in the
Yeah,
craft
exactly.
that I do here."
Right. That's funny, man. Yeah.
So listen, when we go back to AI, we wanted to have one of the things that we were talking about really is, like I mentioned before, when you bring up the subject of AI, I know even in our own office environment, we bring up the subject of AI, and you see people sort of, they twitch and they get a little bit nervous about everything. In your world at Relocity, you guys have, you've put a lot of power and a lot of trust in AI, and I've seen some of
Yeah.
those tools, and they're to me they're mind blowing. They're absolutely fantastic. I guess the question is like when we're looking at compliance, that's a huge thing in our world. Compliance and data privacy. What do you guys do to sort of make sure that you've got that reassurance for the clients using the service?
Yeah, it's a great question. Um, you know, we try to leverage machine learning and AI. We've been leveraging machine learning models sort of since we started building the platform 9 years ago, right? To sort of curate content, look at the employee's profile, the move type, the home and host cities. Do they have kids? Do they have anything we might know about the employee from our partners on the RMC side, right? Or anything we might have learned from them during the onboarding within the platform, right? So we've always leveraged that machine learning to make sort of predictions and recommendations. When AI came onto the scene, so machine learning is sort of a building block of the current iteration of AI, right? Um, all of the content that we present within the app is housed securely in our own vector database. So we're not leveraging an AI, an LLM to go out to the internet and just provide the transferee with random content or random data. Any of the PII that we're accessing to sort of personalize the experience gets stripped out when we're delivering that response to the transferee. So it's always secure. It's always housed or owned by Relocity. What's cool about it is we give opportunities to our partners on the RMC side or to their corporate clients to put their own content within the platform and to say, hey, I've got a policy document, or I've got a how-to, or I've got an FAQ, or I've got a, right? And so now we can leverage the LLMs to sort of power the responses and personalize things based on that content. And we're just in the early stages. I mean, gosh, when did ChatGPT come onto the scene? 3 years ago, 2 years ago?
I mean,
It's mind-boggling what we've all
it's like
experienced
two,
last
two,
year.
3 years ago, but like for me, yeah. I mean, I remember if I really think hard enough, 3 years ago. But actually, it feels like it's burst onto the scene, like from a just an accessibility perspective in the last 12,
Oh,
18 months.
I mean,
And
look,
it's
we we use it as well to deliver certain content based on where the employee might be in their journey. We started as a destination services and rental assistance company. We still do a ton of that work. Yes, we have clients who now leverage the platform for other experiences, but on the DSP side, we call it Velocity Concierge. Ironically, maybe not ironically, but we started as a white glove executive hourly model. And as we started to build out the platform, we knew that people would appreciate either going full in on the high tech or full in on the high touch. And so we can sort of mix the two and really give control back to the transferee. And that's why we were so successful on concierge, is because our industry often looks at things as, well, this is how we've done it for 30 years and we've been highly
yeah,
successful. Why would you ever want to do things differently?
yeah,
And
quite right.
that's the definition of insanity, right? And so this is why I think there are many service providers in our space who are struggling right now, because
True.
it's not in their DNA. And I
To
know
embrace.
to embrace change and
Mm,
iterative approach in K2 is very unique. You guys
mm.
sort of, that has been in your DNA from the onset. Is like, how do we do things differently? How do we wake up every day and say, what can we do differently to really wow our clients? And I think that's why we enjoy working with each other so much, is because
It,
you have that mindset. And
it's
I'm
funny.
always,
I had a call with Nick, our CEO, this morning,
oh
just
yeah,
to catch
nice.
up.
Yeah,
We talked about sort of, we have this thing in our business called our kinetic plan, which is a 5-year plan. Prior to that, it was called Aspire, again another 5-year plan. Uh, Pre my time, but really what it does is it's sort of an internal plan for us as a business. So everyone at K2 to really understand where are we going, where are we heading with the business. Uh, and it sort of the concept behind it is it takes everyone on the journey. So the conversation we're having at the moment is because we're reaching the end of our kinetic 5-year plan. So what happens next? And we're talking about how our plan needs to maintain that entrepreneurial spirit, to really have that agility as a DNA thread through everything that we do as a business. So when you talk about technology and you talk about embracing AI and machine learning and automation and process delivery, we have our it's going to sound like I'm sort of running through all of the brands within our business, but we have our own tech team within the business, Alpha Tech.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sure you've met them, headed up by Mike,
yeah, yeah,
our CTO,
yeah.
and their sole brief, if you like, for anything they do in the business is to give back time. That's it. So anything that they're doing, anything that gets created, anything that gets thought through, that gets whiteboarded and should we put it into deliveries, does it give back time to the business? Because if it gives time back to the business, it either gives time back to the client slash assignee, or gives more time to us to be human centric around everything that we do, because we're not wasting time on doing processes. So
Yeah.
that to
For
that
you,
point.
that is
But,
the that
but
is
AI
the
is a minefield.
AI is definitely a minefield, and I
Yeah.
do sense that there's a lot of people, a lot of friends on the corporate side and clients who are concerned about where it's all headed.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Nervous.
I think if you are, it's interesting. You probably saw the studies that were published by Anthropic and OpenAI over the last 24, 48 hours about how most people are using their tools.
Yeah.
OpenAI, ChatGPT, most people are using it for writing. I certainly use it for a lot of just sort of iterative writing and getting ideas and just brainstorming and maybe even taking an old deck and sort of refreshing it, or a pitch, or just
See,
streamlining some. No
as a
disrespect.
creative, that's like a knife through the heart when you hear
I
someone
know,
going, I'm
I
taking
know.
something creative and I'm using AI to improve it.
But here's the thing, you guys have like a list of projects on your plate. I'm taking things off your plate because I can
Thank
do
you.
it with Claude or with
Thank you.
GenSpark or OpenAI, ChatGPT. And I'm not talking complex RFP pitches here, man. I'm talking like a one-page proposal that I might need a refresh on.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to see that, Claude is a little more advanced on the coding and people are using it for sort of agentic AI. And this is where I think mobility has always had opportunities to up-level our game, to say, look,
Mm,
how does what we do impact the success of our organization with respect to who we hire, how we grow our talent, where we place them, where we might need to grow, and starting to really connect the data from mobility into organizational development, into the work days and SAPs and success factors of the world, and saying, okay, this is where we move the levers. And that's the role we need to play in, is talent development and talent growth, sitting with the HR business partners and being real partners to the business versus being just administrators. And I know it's easier said than done, but AI is the tool to get us there, because it's going to connect it. A guy like me, who is not a technical guy, can
same.
go out and build agents, leveraging, if you don't know what MCP is, I spoke about it at the event in London several months ago. Go out and figure it out. It's a language that allows the agents to speak to each other. It's developed by Anthropic, who makes
Yep.
Claude. And all of the major players have adopted it as, okay, they're going to subscribe to that language. That means that different platforms, we no longer need to hire, a team of engineers to maintain APIs and spend money.
API is correct. Yeah.
You can integrate, for lack of a better term, two platforms, and now start to build out agents that can literally go get the data that you need when you need it, and
That's it.
sort of keep it refreshed. And
And
that
present what you need when you need it at a
that's
moment's
an
notice.
exciting time, and there's some
Yeah,
great
I agree.
companies in our space doing great work around
Mm.
those that vision. That's what excites me the most about where we're going. Is
I
like,
think
we're not going to get rid of the humans, and to my friends on the corporate side, there's a exciting opportunity for them to really up level their game, and to I think we were brought in the early days of the pandemic for a lot of this work. Where are our people? What are they doing? How do we help them? Are they being
mm,
compliant? Is there
mm,
risk? It was like, oh my God, like I'm like, I've got all this visibility now at the executive level. But I felt like that sort of waned through, like, there's the Ukraine war and the Russia and like all this other chaos. And now
mm.
we're sort of in this lull of, like,
Yeah.
we're back to like being mobility, being, put in the corner. Nobody puts mobility in the corner. Sorry, I know you're a guy who loves old movies, and I'm seeing the flux capacitor in the background, which is cracking me up. I love to reference that as well. I'm
That's
like,
cool.
we just
No
put it
one
in
puts
the
mobility in
capacity,
the
I'll
corner.
figure it out. Anyway, you know where I'm at, man. I
Yeah.
just think it's
So
a really
look,
exciting
I
time for
think
mobility to be more than a tactical
it's
team.
providing that level of, again, there's a number of projects that I'm working on with the team internally at K2, which is just from an internal comms perspective around adding transparency to what it is that we're doing. Not
Yeah.
not for checks and measures. Certainly from our side, inside of our business, we always talk about embracing failure and be brave, right? So if we're trying something and we can add data around it so we can then look back and assess where it succeeded, where it failed, can we adjust it? Is it unadjustable? How do we move on? And if you take that into the wider mobility world and you take it into policy evolution and you take it into, actually, for me, the bit that excites me is you've got this beautiful marriage of technology and then, I said it before, human centricity, emotion, feeling, experience, sight, sounds. You're like going to a new city with your family, the
Yeah.
nervousness, the
Yeah.
anticipation, all of that stuff. But there's technology that can add a stream of data and reporting and analysis and sentiment. That's a really, I mean, for me, again, one of the AI sort of addressing sentiment is quite exciting for me. I think that feels like that's one of the closest marriages between technology and sort of the human interaction that you can get. But that, for me, is where I can see how the mobility industry can really embrace it and hopefully not embrace the failure of it, just embrace it and charge forward with it, because that now adds value, because for our clients, they're getting that transparency. We get an understanding of the global talent that we're moving, and we can really start to protect that talent for the client, which means they've got lower overall costs with regard to recruitment, and knowledge retention is there, and knowledge shared around the globe, all of this wonderful stuff. And when we talk about Gen Alpha and what that's going to bring as well, it's fascinating, because like they've grown up on, like, not even they've grown up on technology, it's just they're technology, they are technology, they're a human incarnation of technology.
It is wild, isn't it, man?
Yeah,
It is
it
wild.
really is. Yeah, it really
Yeah.
is.
The sentiment piece is interesting because it does have me thinking about, um, we don't spend enough time thinking about outcomes and results. For us, we look at assignments or moves, and then mobility often gets caught up in the costs. And I know the business often looks at costs as well. And that's a terrible place to have a conversation, because if all
Yeah,
you're looking at is costs and not the actual outcomes of, like, did the employee, were the employee, was the employee and their family happy? Were they successful? However you define that as within your own organization. Did we help them get set up for success in this new location more rapidly than they might than if we had just let them do it on their own, right? Because you
was
could let
that
them.
global talent able to stay on point, or were they
100%.
distracted?
Exactly. Right. Did they grow? Did they stay?
Yeah,
What's the retention of a mobile employee versus the non-mobile employee? I
yeah,
know it's greater. There's many studies out in this industry
yeah.
that have
It's
shown that
well
if
documented.
you give them the right benefits, you take great care of them, maybe you help them buy a home or sell a home, they will stay at your company longer because they're
Correct.
part of your community. They feel like
Yeah,
you've invested in them,
yeah,
and that's just an easy formula.
yeah.
And so
I
it's
agree. Yeah. And
it
it is
boggles
wild.
my
I
mind.
know, and I'm sure you've had it in your travels, both at Relocity now, but pre Relocity as well. That when you're talking about mobility and the decisions being made by procurement, it's like,
Yeah. Oh,
because it's like it's so much more. Like, I get it. In business, it's
yeah.
about numbers, but it is there's
Yeah.
other numbers. And mate, hey, look,
But
full circle. That's where process, stitching together reporting structures, and the likes of platforms like Workday and so on and so forth. The numbers aren't just dollars and cents numbers now. There are also numbers around retention and sentiment and NPS, or whatever it is you're measuring. Other numbers come into play aside from just the commercial, the financial aspect, and
100%.
maybe we'll
100%.
get there. We're hearing, interestingly, we obviously, as a mobility company, we do a number of RFPs. We're hearing and sort of reading reports and stuff like that, that a lot of corporates are now using AI to score RFPs,
Oh,
which
really?
again is a really interesting
Okay.
concept when you're thinking
Yeah.
about how do you get, you said earlier, you love about working with K2 is because, just our way of doing things, and I talk about an entrepreneurial spirit and stuff like that. How do you then, when a machine is scoring you, and it's looking at a series of checks and
It's
measures, like, I think with AI, there's going to be some nosedives where there's going to have to be a reality of, that's probably not a good use of it, and let's dial that bit up, and it's learning
Yeah,
for the machine and the humans.
I agree. I mean, first of all, I think the RFP process, man, I wish somebody would come along and redesign the entire RFP process.
I agree.
I mean, I spend enough time with our RMC partners, um, who I know just invest tons of resources, time, money, people resources to participate in these RFPs. And
Mhm.
hoping that you're going to win X percent, let's call it
Yeah,
half or a third or whatever it might
yeah,
be that's considered good. Um, there just needs to be a better way, because I think that I see some of these, and we get invited to a fair amount as well. And you come into an RFP and it's got 900 questions, and you're like, and half of them seem like repeats. You're like, what are you
yeah, yeah,
measuring? Like, let's find a better way. And I know there's some platforms out there that are starting to really make it a better process for the folks that are participating. But I would be cautious to use AI to review the actual
Yeah.
responses. I just don't
Yeah,
think that's.
I mean, there's so many moving parts with that regard, and to your point around using different things, you then face a challenge of, you're now able to maybe you view a company that has the ability to produce more rich content as part of that better than company A over B, and therefore, but it's still not truly looking at the sort of the ability to deliver mobility. Takes us back again to data driven. Again, another thing that we often talk about at K2 is evidence based. So everything we do when we talk about our ESG program, we don't just make wild statements. Evidence based. We have to back it up with real data that is the evidence for what we are doing, the why, and therefore that is what guides us to what we do next. It's not so much what we're doing today, but what are we going to do? What are we going to do next? And when I come back to AI, we're as a creative. I remember going back a number of years, and when AI started rearing its ugly head, is what I thought at the time. It was like the erosion of the creative industry, and God, what are we going to do? And as a creative, it's like sort of get on board or get swallowed up. And at K2, we aside from all of the work that Alpha Tech are doing by looking at things like enhancing processes, saving the business time, we're also looking at how we can bring AI into communication tools to manage expectations for more towards the relocating employee rather than the client, but to give a richer experience. So using AI to produce personalized films and so on and so forth around expectations of that relocation, bringing families on board. I'm relocating, but my kids are nervous about it. Well, then I can start generating footage around what can really talk to them to bring them on board. Um,
It's awesome. I
in
love
your
it.
experience, you're around it a lot. What do
Yeah.
you see the next in our industry? Do you see the next innovation? Maybe it's not AI, maybe it's something else. What do you, without spilling beans about what you guys are working on?
I know my CEO and founder might think I'm crazy here, and I mentioned this a while ago, right? I think we will start to have, and maybe this is too pie in the sky. Maybe I'm a San Francisco guy who's thinking out, way out there, but we are going to see people having more sort of virtual experiences so that they can start to know. So if I can go to ChatGPT and say, give me the best neighborhoods here and the best schools in a 15-minute commute,
Like
top 50.
augmented reality?
So then now if I take that into you know maybe not necessarily the headset world. It could be even on an app base. It could be on a laptop. But we're going to start to have more of these virtual experiences where you get to know the city, the location, maybe even start to search for homes on a really a more immersive basis. And I think some of the AI tools are going to help with that. I mean, look,
I get it.
we've all seen enough creative materials that it's pretty obvious it was created by AI. In the
Yeah.
in the near future, it won't be so obvious. I mean, you've seen some of the videos that are being produced, the avatars that are just incredibly lifelike.
Yeah.
I might even be an avatar right now, James, as far as you know. It's mind-boggling. I hope that we can
We
create
actually, in fact, what we should do when we the link has probably been updated, but when we publish this podcast, we should put there's a link that we circulated within our marketing team at K2, and it basically takes you through. I think it's like 15 or 20 images. Is it AI generated or is it not? And it's like yes, no, it is. And
I love
and I think from memory it was like 15. I think the highest score we got was 11, and probably of
it.
like
Nobody had
correct.
a
That was
nobody
yes,
had
no,
a
that was AI. Because some of it is so good that you're just like,
wild. It's
well,
wild.
I can't tell the difference anymore. You know. And
Yeah.
and so to your point, yeah, the idea that you could be moving from London to San Francisco, and rather than just we've got Google Maps and all of that, great. Um, but now I can sort of start, and again, the tools are there actually to step inside a building or what have you, but to really start stitching that get together into a personalized experience of this is what life in San Francisco could look like for you, schools, neighborhood, properties, the office, the commute, and putting it all together to sort of live a day in the life within 5 minutes of I can that's kind of cool. In fact, when I get there, I want to go and see what was that over there, and
Yeah, absolutely,
yeah, I
man.
get
It's
it.
really like, it's like when you combine those tools with the concept of personalization and being able to get that, whether it's just an individual or a couple with maybe a family, getting everybody on board and excited. And I've often thought like mobility, God, how many times have we been to a conference where people are talking about, oh, mobility, it's one of the most stressful things you'll ever endure in your life. It's like, it's also this amazing adventure where you and your family get to live in a new city and work for maybe it's a new company, maybe it's the same company, but new team, new
You
location,
would
new
Yeah,
language, new schools. It's an amazing adventure. It's one
it
of the
is.
greatest things one of the greatest growth opportunities. I've had a good fortune of living overseas twice just because I opted to. It wasn't a company. Relo was like my wife and I said, we're going to go teach English. We're going to go live in South America. We just did it, and we've been fortunate to travel. And I know that might make me
Was that
more
pre-kids?
pre-kids in the late 90s, and then my daughter was actually born in Argentina when we lived there for 2 years. We went to
Okay.
just
Okay.
study Spanish and drink wine and eat steak, which is always a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like, I've been I like to call it a self-imposed expat. And so,
Yeah.
and like the funny thing is like, I didn't have ChatGPT. I mean, back in the late 90s, we didn't even have Google Maps. My kids are always like, how did you guys figure out how to get around? I was like, well, we had the Lonely Planet. We
And a
had
paper
the
bus.
we had a person on the street, we had a bus driver, we had
That's
the
it.
people you could ask, and you say, hey, how do you get to and they say, oh, you just go down here and you make it, and you figured it out.
Yeah,
And
that's it.
so, yeah,
But
there's also
I guess the difference was then we were all figuring it out.
yeah,
Whereas now if you try to do that, you're swimming against the tide.
that's true. People might say, why are you talking to me? Use Google Maps.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You've got a
exactly.
phone there, just use it. Why are you going into the restaurant to order food? Why are you not doing it from home?
Honestly, man, the
Well,
best,
San
best
Francisco, you guys are the home of Waymo. You
this
don't
is
even have drivers in your taxis
we don't
anymore.
even have drivers anymore.
No?
I love when people come visit. That's one of the first things we do is we get into a Waymo. We're like, look, we've had them for a few years now.
I was
Come and just
we
sit in
talked
there.
before this call. I was in San Francisco last summer, and
Yeah,
this was me at the traffic lights.
it's
The lady next to me says, "You get used to it," and I'm like, there was no one driving that." She goes, "No,"
it's
and I
wild.
reckon she must have that conversation 10 times a day with
It's awesome.
tourists.
It's insane. It's
You know,
awesome. It's
it
it's
is wild.
really cool. Yeah. It's you know what? I have a daughter who's 15. She takes Waymo. She takes it if she's out later with her friends, if they go to the beach or
Yeah,
something, go to the park. She
yeah.
takes it home. I'd rather her. It sounds crazy, but I'd rather she get in a self-driving car than a car that has a driver. It's
Yeah,
just
no, I get it.
weird to
I get
say
it.
that, but I trust. Waymos don't make crazy decisions, and when other
Yeah.
drivers do, Waymo knows how to adjust. I
And
mean, they're
again,
fascinating.
you
Yeah.
know, I read a wild fact, bringing it back to our AI piece and learning, machine learning. I read a wild fact, and these numbers will be completely wrong, but it was something like when you sit inside a Waymo, it's like the driver has in excess of 1 million miles worth of driving experience because it's taking the experience of all the Waymos and it's generating that knowledge and it's learning as it goes and it's
Constantly
when
learning.
one car is learning something, the entire fleet is learning the same thing, and that's the bit around AI that is pretty cool with this sort of this just ongoing
Constantly learning.
build
Isn't that
constant.
wild, man? I mean, we are, like I said, we're just scratching the surface. I can't even think of where we go in our space. The
Yeah,
virtual experiences, the immersive experiences, the sort of on-demand avatars who might be the CEO of the company welcoming you, or your manager who's been turned into an avatar to say, "Hey, excited for your first day next Monday.
yeah,
I'll meet you in the lobby. Here's lunch on whatever it might be."
yeah.
Um, we have so much power to spin this up,
But
spin
even
on.
that, like I
It's
think about, I've thought about this a long time because I've heard you talk about AI before, and
yeah.
I see the power of it. We just talked about Waymo as a great example. And I look at it in mobility. I'm like, okay, cool. So we're using it for enhancing processes and speeding that up. Great, tick, good. We can do it for producing sort of AI generated content, like you said, SEO, personalized welcomes. Like, great, tick.
Well,
Augmented reality, cool. But like, what else? What else? What else? What else can we use it for? And
what?
it's
Like,
yeah,
I mean, in our
time will
space,
tell.
I'd have to say time will tell. I don't
We need
know.
those Gen Alphas to hurry up and join us.
Yeah, Yes, they will think big. I think where it's really exciting is to see some of the work outside of the industry that's being done in
Yeah.
personalized healthcare,
Yeah.
medical research, things like cancer research, where the AI can start to crunch data at a much more rapid pace.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the name of the company, but they are just starting to do human tests. It may be a Google moonshot, where they're starting to do some early testing with some of the medicines that have been created by AI. So it's the first
Wow.
sort of AI medicines.
Wow.
That's where it really gets exciting, where
Yeah.
you have AI who might be more accurate at reading an X-ray or an MRI than an
Yep.
actual human. And
More
again,
efficient.
felt to the doctors will still have work to do,
Yeah.
and the designers, the creatives will have work to do. There's going to be things that it cannot
But
do.
AI doesn't get distracted, doesn't have a bad day, doesn't, like,
It does.
is always craving to learn, right?
Well, what's
And
crazy,
yeah,
we in our lifetime, and I'm 50 plus, I'll just leave it at that. We will have robots in our home. Now,
all day.
people are like, "Oh, you're crazy," but like, I mean, we already have. If you've been to San Francisco Airport, you saw the robot that makes coffee. It lives in like a little glass box,
Yes.
and it just makes the cup. You push a button on a screen, whatever kind of coffee you make. It has an espresso machine. There you go, no problem.
Yeah.
Right now, we
That's
still have tons of coffee shops that are run by humans.
Yeah.
We have self-driving cars. So it's just going to be fascinating to see where it all goes.
lawnmowers, vacuum cleaners, blah blah blah, all of that sort of stuff.
If I can get a robot to do the dishes and do my laundry, yeah. Think about what I might just become like that.
That's why I've got kids.
That's
Tell the truth.
get my kids to do the laundry and the dishes. I can get them to put a dish on the sink, but not actually like on the counter, but like a foot from in the sink. I'm like,
So here's the wild thought. At some point, you'll just ask AI, what do you want to do next? What do you fancy doing next, AI? What do you fancy using your superpower for next? And it'll go, and you go, oh, okay, let's give it a shot.
You know what, man? There are some creepy stories out there of the AI of machines sort of rewriting their own code and stopping the owners, the humans, from sort of controlling them. And so that's where things are a little scary.
That's the script for Mission Impossible.
Yeah. No, but in real life, I'm hearing from folks who are like, yeah, it's possible, right? So let's make sure we've got some kill switches in there.
That's it. Yeah. Going back to my earlier comment around data privacy and compliance and so on and so forth. Yeah, we don't want to get involved in that.
I don't want to wake up one day to see the robot standing over me in bed.
Pouring coffee on you or something. Oh, thanks very much.
Exactly. Oh, man.
Brilliant. William, it's always a joy to speak with you. And thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
AI is, as I say, is a fascinating subject, and I've watched a number of, as I say, podcasts, TED Talks, and so on and so forth, where I think the most fascinating thing is it's fairly unanimous that to sort of almost have the ability to say, right, I can put my finger on it. This is what it's doing today, is pointless, because the moment I've decided which finger to put on it, like it's
gone.
again, and it's always fascinating just to chew the fat and talk about what's next. And, spoiler alert, if the guys put this up, if anyone was watching this podcast hoping they would discover a wonderful new idea, wait for Gen Alpha maybe, but yeah. Or augmented reality, or just ask the machine. See what it.
Just ask the machine.
See what it comes up with.
Yeah, what's next in mobility would be interesting. We should have done that on the call here. To just go to
our chat. The first thing I'm doing, and I shall WhatsApp you and say, this is what's happening. Keep your eyes peeled.
Yeah, do it, man. Send it to me. I'm curious to hear.
Thank you, William.
And I will do the same. James, thank you for the time. It's
amazing. Listen, have a fantastic day. Enjoy that oat latte of yours. I hope it's not too cold now. And we'll catch up very soon.
Decaf. It's only 10:30. It's almost time for decaf.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Thanks,
Thank you, my man.
Have a great evening. See you, James.
Bye. If you work in global mobility, this podcast is for you. Every episode of Personally Speaking brings you real stories, insights, and strategies from across the industry, the kind you won't hear anywhere else. So if you want to stay ahead, hit subscribe now and never miss an update.